Welcome to the Rake. We have a friend of mine, a very special guest today, Jeff Platt. He is host of everything. He's been host of a game show on PokerGo. He has been a broadcaster for PokerGo for the past year, and he recently became a real poker player, in my opinion, making his first ever WSOP final table. So how's it going, Jeff?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Jamie. It is great to be on with you too. Love you guys. Jamie, you were actually nice to me in that introduction. I was ready to fire shots right away, but instead, yeah, okay, great to be on here with both of you.
I have to lull you into a sense of security so that I can just knock you down question by question throughout the pod.
Fair.
If Jeff Platt, I actually put some money on Jeff crying by the end of the pod, and if he does, I win $50. So.
Nice, all right.
Yeah. So anyway, we wanted to talk about something that happened at 4 a.m. last night because it's just super interesting. So it doesn't exactly pertain to you, except that you were commentating a fair bit of it until it got thrown to Tuckman. But Ryan Depaulo wins his first ever WSOP bracelet in the parking lot of a Whole Foods at 7 a.m. Eastern. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's unbelievable. And that guy has a rowdy fan base. You know, obviously anytime Negranu runs deep or Helmuth runs deep and I do a Twitch stream featuring World Series of Poker final table coverage, those fans, sure, they're there. They're out in full force. But the Depaulo fans are like, show Joey is a mush. That's his screen name on the wonderful WSOP.com. Show him. And it's just overwhelming how much support he gets from his segment of fans. So there he is. He's in his car in a New Jersey parking lot. He's grinding out this World Series of Poker event. I think at one point the cops pulled up behind him because he was just sitting in the Whole Foods parking lot for so long. It was an unbelievable run. I mean, that guy is passionate about poker. He has some emotional swings, I think you could say, to say the least. But again, I keep going back to his rabid fan base, and I think Tuckman saw it in the official final table stream as well. So props to him. I mean, imagine winning a WSOP bracelet, and then imagine winning a WSOP bracelet when you're sitting in your car in the parking lot at 4 a.m. It's pretty surreal.
Yeah, I wonder if it covered one cart of groceries at Whole Foods.
I don't know. I don't know at Whole Foods. I'm not sure.
That's amazing. He's got this such a carefree attitude, which I think is so like great for being deep in tournaments, because like I feel like the more you care and the more you sweat it, the less well you do.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, he crushes.
Well, if that's true, I'm set for the rest of the summer, because right now I'm like, fuck this.
How's the spreadsheet looking, Jamie, for
the
WSOP run?
It's so funny. I'm over. I've actually been pretty close to the bubble. I got some bounties in that one, so that was sweet.
Okay.
But yeah, no good. And then all the dusty little side events that I'm like regging it, where I'm like, oh, I'm stuck 2 buy-ins in the 500. Screw it. Let's play this 30R. And then I just like win. So I'm like plus money on the day, which is fun, except I look at my WSOP spreadsheet and I'm like, I am City. I'm so glad I didn't make any side bets. I'd be broke.
Hey, a long way to go. Long way, not even halfway through.
That's like what's fucked about playing different, like all different buy-ins, because when you do well in your lowest buy-in, it angers you more. Like you're one table and your fucking lowest buy-in, and you need to fucking win it to break even, and you're just like, why did I just win that flip? Why did I just win? Like I don't want to win.
Just put me away sometimes.
Yeah. Pretty funny. Let's talk about happy stuff, though. Let's not talk about my WSOP. Let's talk about your WSOP. I had so much fun sweating you. You are like a very happy poker player. When I'm watching you, I'm not like, oh, here's this guy who's going to complain about losing a flip or whatever. You are chilling. You're having a glass of wine. And you made like 12 or 13K, right? Do you want to talk about that, Ron?
Yeah, it was I think it was an $800 buy-in for the KO Deepstack event. And the Deepstack, I mean, that just means they give you more chips at the beginning, but it's like the same structure, and all tournaments take the same amount of time. So nothing special with that. I just, I've been playing every day. I put a bunch of action up on State Kings. I am not a professional poker player, so I don't feel an immense amount of pressure to perform well. And I know that we were talking about the emotional roller coasters, just a couple minutes ago. I know that that's very tough to deal with in tournament poker, right? because you can be rolling, you can be chip leader, you can lose a flip, you can lose an 80-20, whatever, one of your bluffs doesn't get through, you're right back to middle of the pack. And so I'm not just acting for the Twitch stream at that point. We lose a flip and I'm like, okay, that's going to happen. Sometimes we're going to lose flips. Sometimes we're going to win flips. Sometimes we're going to be crushed and get there. Sometimes we're going to crush the other player and the other player is going to get there. So I just thoroughly enjoyed the overall experience throughout these World Series of Poker broadcasts that I've been doing on Twitch. When we didn't have a Hellmuth or a Negreanu or a Marley or a Jamie, obviously, on stream, and we didn't get this massive audience. I was averaging like 650 to 700 people for feature table coverage in the first week of this.
Pretty
thing.
Good.
Yeah, which was good.
Something that you just started doing on a whim, sort of.
I was super happy with it, and I thought I'd always told everybody, I'm like, guys, there's a chance when we come on at 1 a.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Pacific time, that I'll be playing. And everybody's like, no, there's probably no chance of that. Like, yeah, you're probably right. And so that night, I was playing, I was running deep, and I thought I would be lucky to get 250 to 300 people watching. I just thought people would come and be like, oh, it's just this guy playing. We aren't seeing the featured players like usual. I'll just move on. But the support in the chat was absolutely surreal. And by the time I made the final table, we had 2,300 people watching, which for me is just wild because, like Jamie mentioned, I've just started this streaming thing and I don't really play on Twitch. So it's been mostly just as a broadcaster, which is what I do anyway. So it's felt fairly natural, fairly comfortable. But then when I start playing, it's just a whole different thing. I know, Marley, you can attest to that when you actually are playing and making these important decisions in front of a ton of people. But I loved it. I loved the ride. I loved that emotional roller coaster that tournament took me on. It ended up in 7th. Was not the optimal ending, obviously, but I was still thrilled with it in every way.
How much do you play in general?
So I try to play in the quote unquote, real world where there's not a global pandemic going on. I try to play, a tournament every week or two or something. So I don't play that often. I love it. I love poker tournaments and just competitive and that's a way to fulfill that nature that I have. But I don't play that often, mostly working. I do like to play a decent amount in the summer, fire some series events, light some money on fire. So, but I keep up with the game, and my job makes it easy to do that because all I do is just watch the best poker players in the world and sit next to a Jamie or a Maria Ho or a Brent Hanks and just learn, just sit there and learn the whole time. So it's been a great.
What I love about you, Jeff, is you're so not jaded and not bitter, and happy.
Yeah. I know, right? It makes me fucking sick.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you one specific question, and don't get offended. Okay. The hand that you called off.
Don't shove, please. God. I think I'm going to call here. I don't think it's a total ICM punt or anything. We're going for the win anyways. There's no super short stack. I'm going to call. Okay, we're ahead. Hold. King? Oh no, the pain. That's it. That is it. Thank you, buddy. Thank you. Out in 7th.
Did you take it to ICMizer after? Is this the kind of thing where if you feel like you may have made a mistake, are you someone who will go, I'm a broadcaster, this is for fun, whatever, it doesn't matter? Or are you someone who's like, okay, I think I can do this better next time. Let's see if this was a correct call off. Let's see if I should have been King 10 or something instead.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I want to say my answer to that is both. Because on the one hand, when I'm streaming, I don't feel compelled to be heroic in front of the crowd. And I also don't feel afraid to make mistakes in front of the crowd. And, if everybody bashes me, whatever, I just don't really care. But with that said, I do look back at hands that I play. I do look back at decisions that I make. I do, run these hands with the help of friends. I realize that, I especially realize at this point that the King Deuce suited call off was not good. In my thought process throughout that specific hand, we were 7-handed. I was one of the shortest stacks. There was no super short stack. So there wasn't necessarily a guy or girl to wait out throughout this while we were 7-handed. Now, everybody was super shallow. And I thought that with some stone cold killers at the table, like Eric Baldwin, like Ian Steinman, that I wanted to take any small edge that I have. I realized that ICM is an incredibly important part of tournament poker. I also really want to go for the win and really want to go for that World Series of Poker bracelet. I don't want to light money on fire, and I realized that I might have with that call looking back at it. I think from an EV standpoint, it's just maybe slightly off, and I think from an ICM standpoint, it's pretty far off. I think Brian Rast ended up saying on the broadcast that King 7 suited or better would have been a call there, and that makes perfect sense to me. So I go back, I review it just like I try to review everything else. I'm not thinking about that hand except when Jamie Kerstetter asked me during a podcast. So I'm not tortured by it overall.
I had to ask you because I watching it. It's weird to watch it on Twitch, right? Because I'm looking at it and I see you being dealt that hand, and then I just go and like get some coffee because I was like, okay, he's gonna fold that hand. But it's not crazy. It's like you got it in good. I just I feel like what would normally happen though is that if it's like your first really big spot, I think most people err toward being tight and pay jumping. So when I saw the King Deuce suit, I'm like, okay, he's gonna muck this. And I came back and like, oh no. But you did end up getting in good, and like if you hold on that hand, you're gonna have a massive amount of chips. And I think most people in your spot would probably fold too much instead of fold not enough. So I think that's kind of cool. And that might have been how you got a big stack, is just doing things that people don't expect you to do.
Yeah, I do completely agree with that. And Marley, the hand was, I had probably 12 or 13 bigs behind. I was in the big blind for this hand. Again, we're 7-handed. There are 3 or 4 stacks there are probably 3 stacks that are fairly similar to mine in the 12 to 16 big blind range. There are a couple in the 25 big blind range. And then there's one big stack who was to my right, who was in the small blind, and he had 35, 40 bigs or so. And he seemed like a fairly competent player. So I knew that once it folded around to him, he was shoving very, 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 very wide there in that spot. Maybe any 2. I'm not sure if that specific player shoves any 2, but I know he's shoving very wide. I had the King Deuce of Hearts, made the call. He had Queen 9. I did not win. That happens. But to Jamie's point, I was really going for it there. And I told myself, this is a World Series of Poker final table. These opportunities do not come around that often. Try to take these small edges. This sounds corny, but like if you feel it, just go for it. I wouldn't do it again, looking back at that specific spot. But in that moment, I think I'm fine with that overall thought process. It's just the thought process that I'll tweak moving forward.
Yeah, your reasoning is really good. And that's something I had a questionable hand the first time I ever played the LAPC. It was a 10K, and I had never been at a table that tough. I drove up from Mexico. I'd been playing online, and I ran headfirst into a flip situation. I was like, this is going to be a flip enough of the time, and I am one of the worst players at this table. And I just said, it's day 2, and I'm just sitting with these great players. And normally I'd be like, want to preserve my stack or whatever, but there I was like, I want to double up and survive this table. And that's all I could think of. And I told friends about the hand, and they were like, ooh, I don't know, like 8s, you're not going to be ahead that often. I'm like, oh, I wasn't trying to be ahead. I was trying to double up on a flip.
Did you win?
Oh, no. But no, that's good. That's like a different level of thinking about poker. It's just like assessing like what level of risk you want to be taking in a particular spot. If you're at like a $50 table with all that money up top, like you're probably gonna be one of the more experienced, better players left, right? So then you're like, oh, I can find a better spot. But maybe you're right. Like you might have gotten just trashed by 2 of the like most aggressive players, found no good spot after that, and that could have been the best spot you had.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. There was a chance that I would look back at the tournament and be like, oh, I wish I called off with a King Deuce because Eric Baldwin on my left ended up getting all the chips, and he just absolutely tortured me throughout the entire tournament. I think I can hang with those guys in one specific tournament. I can compete with an Eric Baldwin and Ian Steinman who were at that final table. over the long haul, they're probably going to crush me. So I was just looking for little spots here and there where I could pick up some edges and then also just really go for the win, go for that beautiful bracelet.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you just to, pivot a little bit, but you said that it doesn't really get to you, like people criticize your poker play or you don't really care. Do you have that same feeling with commentating? Because obviously Jamie and I talked a lot about her doing it, and just like the feedback and the criticism that comes with that. That's so much more of like, your identity and what you really do. Does that get to you at all, or is that kind of the same attitude?
Yeah, it's a great question. And that kind of criticism gets to me significantly more than anything that anybody would say about my poker playing. I mean, a main part of that is because, that's what I do for a living, but I think that's also what I'm most passionate about. So even when I see somebody in the Twitch chat that's scrolling and scrolling when we're doing this tournament, and he's like, wow, this tournament would be much better, without Jeff. And I'm like, oh man, let's see, why would he say that? Okay, no, I think I did this right. And then I respond to him and he's like, no, man, I'm just kidding. You do an awesome job. And you guys know how that goes. I was going to say,
that's probably just one of my 12 troll accounts.
Yeah, it is probably Jamie Kerstetter. So it gets to me a little bit. I know that's kind of the nature of the game, right? We all kind of throw ourselves out there. So we're naturally going to be subject to criticism, whether it's constructive or it's not. I love the constructive criticism I get, even if it's a little harsh on me. You're like, hey, you need to do this better, or you need to do that better. I love that and can't hear enough of it. I don't particularly like to see you suck at this or blah, 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 blah. It hits me more. You try to brush it off because, again, like I just said, in this kind of business, you're just going to get that. I mean, you could be Bob Costas, and Bob Costas has, 1,000 people on Twitter who just trash him, even though he's like the greatest broadcaster who ever lived. So I think once we come to that understanding, then it's fine. But it still gets to you in certain spots. I think mistakes get to me a lot more than criticism. If I miscall a hand, even if it's something as tiny as saying like he needs an 8 on the turn, but I say the flop instead, that will bother me significantly more than any other criticism.
I was gonna say, it's interesting, and to go back to Ryan Depaulo a little bit, I think that's what he does so well, is that I think, kind of, not to get really deep with it, but when we internalize like, oh, I'm a professional poker player, or I'm a professional commentator, we almost have to take it too seriously in the fact that like we overthink things, or we like internalize it too much. And like if we can kind of get a little bit of what you or like Ryan have with poker, even professionals. I mean, he's kind of professional, but he's not really a serious professional, whatever. And I don't know, I feel like that attitude, we need to find a way to like hold on to that. It's just so hard.
I have a tip for you. If you need a tip for this, anytime you get criticism in one thing, just pretend that you're actually professional in the other thing. So when they're like, Jeff,
that's a good trick.
Your voice is really fucking annoying, Jeff. And you're like, dude, I'm not a commentator. I'm a professional poker player. Okay? And then if they're like, whoa, king two suited, are you kidding? You're like, dude, I don't even play poker. I commentate. Like, lay off.
You're just always flip-flopping. Wait, well, actually, I'm just a housewife, actually. I'm just Greggy's girlfriend. What are you talking about?
Oh, I love that. Marle, you tweeted, I think last week or so, you said that you had better results when you were off stream. You weren't sure if that was directly related, but how do you feel, when you get some criticism in the Twitch chat when you're playing?
I mean, the Twitch chat, I don't really, it's not that I care so much what they say, just like it's like when you're at a low moment of like busting everything for the day and just getting destroyed and you've been on for 8 hours, and then the trolls come with like the criticism, it's like, I can't fucking take it. Or even worse, like the creepers come out or like whatever.
They're like, Marle, show me your feet.
I know. I'll give you $1,000. Show me your feet. Yeah, it's just fucking, sometimes it's like, like yesterday Spraggy was on and like he just jammed like 9 bigs in the hijack or something with King Jack, and everyone's like, are you sure it's a shove? Are you sure it's a shove? Are you sure? He just busted like 13th, like just bricked the final table or something, and he was just like, I am going to kill somebody. Like, are you sure it's a jam? Are you sure it's a jam? I'm like, oh my God. It's just brutal. The last thing you want to hear at that moment, But
We can pivot. This is a good pivot then. So Jeff and I both share a love of UFC. I think you are way more thorough in your love of it than I am. So I want to talk a little bit about that. But first, I'd like to pose the question. If you had to punch a poker player in the face, you absolutely had to save the world, who do you punch and why?
I think it's great question. It's got to be Mike Matusow, right? I hate to take the easy way out, but I mean, look at what the guy did last week or whenever it was. Absolutely despicable, to say the very least. Maybe unacceptable is a better word. So it would have to be Mr. Mike Matusow.
I would have lost so much money on this bet. I would have bet probably $500 that you were like, oh, I don't want to say a name. I really love everyone.
I contemplated that answer in my mind for sure, but then I just had to go Matusow after the rant we saw on YouTube.
That's great. Marley went to a UFC with Spraggy. That was like one of your first dates, really, right?
Yeah, it was like our first date. Yeah, basically, it was awful. He was like, "Oh, because we're in New York together," and he was like, "Oh, I have tickets for this fight, but like I could try to get you one. They're kind of sold out, but I'll try to get you one or whatever." And I was like, "Oh yeah, like yeah, I'd love to." And then he actually got me one, and I was like sitting there like,
damn it.
We saw every single fight. You know, those things are like 9 hours.
Oh, you were there from the very, very, very beginning. So like all the preliminary fights.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's a long day.
It's a long day. So by the end I was like, this is great, but I've been here for 9 hours. Like it was too much.
Do you remember like what the main event was by any chance? I'm just curious.
I have no idea. I have no idea. Yeah. But I mean, it was like, I mean, the energy in there was like nothing else. Like, you know, it was amazing.
Yeah, I think the atmosphere in that sport really stands out. I mean, it's something that you can sense also from watching it on TV. Again, when we do actually have crowds at sporting events, but I think it's for a special couple of main events. Also, like when a Conor McGregor fights, for example, that aura that's around him, that's around that crowd, I think is really unlike any other.
I think it's cool right now, though, the Fight Island concept and the fact that you're getting different aspects to UFC that I just didn't get before, which is like hearing the corners talk and stuff. Mm-hmm. Like you can almost never hear that because you just hear a bunch of cheering and yelling and stuff like that, and just hearing, I don't know, like the pep talks and stuff. And then hearing the one guy was probably like 3 weeks ago, his fighter's like, I'm done, man, I'm done. He's like, get back out there, go get brain damage. I was like, whoa.
Throw in the towel.
Like, terrible. Yeah, but that was kind of cool to be able to hear that. And to see that they're like, the fights have still been really good despite like no crowds at all.
Yeah, listen, all these sports are given a unique opportunity to experiment with their broadcasts now, right? Because you are missing that crowd. So you can put cameras in different spots. You, like Jamie, you just said, you can hear the corners. You can hear every single word from them now. I think UFC has kind of set the stage for other sports in their experimentation. You know, they could put a camera usually where somebody would be sitting in the third row, or they could put a camera literally right behind the bench in a basketball game. I just think it's kind of opened the door. And in poker, you know, we're doing these online poker broadcasts. We've set up this virtual Poker Go studio to try out new things. And I think that we'll see more online poker tournament broadcasts in the future because of what's going on right now.
Yeah. Sure.
I wanted to ask you, since you have kind of taken a step into the game show host role a couple times. So I actually got to participate in the Big Blind, which is really fun, like a Jeopardy style poker trivia game. Had a bunch of different aspects to it, which were fun. I think they'd be more fun the second time around when people get used to like the betting structure and that you can actually bluff and you could like with a straight face, like raise, and then the people who think they might not be right on the question might actually fold. There were cool aspects to it, but do you want to talk a little bit about that and then also introduce the show you're going to be doing with Run Good?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So to go back to the Big Blind, the executive producer and creator and director of that show, John BOVENIZER, yes, he's been working for Poker Central for a while, and I ran into him at a charity event, and he said, we were just talking, and he said something to the effect of, I'm actually creating this game show. And I just like kind of stopped cold. I'm like, oh my God, John, I would love to host a game show. Just give me a chance. Just give me an audition. Just give me a shot at it. Like, to combine poker with a traditional game show, I was all in already. You know, he gave me the 1-sentence pitch and that was it. I was in on that. And so fortunately it worked out. You know, he liked what he saw from me. I guess I was fortunate enough to host the show. And I do think the show worked out really well. I think it was a show that we look back on and we're definitely proud of. It was definitely unique. It was original content in the poker world. And I think we know how to tweak it moving forward. And part of that, like Jamie, you just said, will be familiarity with the game overall. And that's just going to help the players. That's going to help it become a better, more entertaining product for the audience as well. I think we know now what to do with our trivia questions. Perhaps we'll make those touch more modern. And I think we'll get there. You know, this is a work in progress. You always see changes from season 1 to season 2 of game shows. So if we're lucky enough to have a season 2, which I do think all signs point to, then I'm excited to see where that show could go. As far as the new show, and thank you for bringing that up. So this is Rob versus Tyson, presented by VIP Game Nights. It's on Twitch every Wednesday night starting on July 22nd, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific time. Marley, no idea what time that would be overseas, and you don't know either. They're counting. Anyways.
Yeah. Very
late. So this is a game show that features 2 absolute Survivor legends in Boston Rob and in Tyson Apostol. These are 2 really competitive guys, and they came up with this idea along with TANA, KARN, and the team at Run Good to put a show into place that creates competition between them, which is great, which everybody wants to see, but also creates the audience interaction that we're used to seeing on Twitch, and also lets audience members play with their favorite Survivor superstars. So I guess it's going to be a mashup of, you know, Family Feud and The Price is Right. It's a fun game. We're in the rehearsal process for it this week, but I'm excited to see how it'll turn out on Twitch.
Sorry, where does poker come into play? Is it poker at all, or?
It's not poker at all. There's no relation at all to poker. Now, those guys do play poker. Those guys do love poker, and that's how I assume they met TANA with Run Good, and that's how the 3 of them started working together on the show. But there's no poker elements to it.
That's the best pitch I've ever heard. There's no poker.
Right,
so if you're in a big ass downswing,
Right.
You can watch this show and not be reminded of poker. But in all seriousness, they're 2 of the best and most fun Survivor players of all time. I'm a massive Survivor fan. And it was a little like, I've met some pretty famous people through poker. And I usually just don't care that much. I'm just like, oh, if you're a cool person at the table, you're a cool person at the table. I don't need to like get an autograph or something like that. I feel completely different about Boston Rob. We hung out at the San Diego thing, and the whole time I was just like, wow, it's Boston Rob. And I was like fangirling, and I was like, be cool. Like, he doesn't want to talk to you about whatever season, what his decision was with the Idol and whatever. Like, I had to actually stop myself from like being in full-on interview mode the entire time I was talking to him.
You were telling me in San Diego, you were like, I just want to ask Boston Rob so many questions about the show. I'm like, maybe limit it to like 1 or 2 or something. If you just kept going question after question after question.
Yeah, it's really hard.
But to his credit, I mean, it seemed like he was just great with everybody who even did have those really specific, hey, back in at the 5th Tribal Council when you were on a couple years ago, what was your decision process? He was great with that. Tyson Apostol is just as great with fans also. Those guys are just really genuine, I think. And you get that sometimes from reality TV show contestants who didn't grow up in the spotlight.
Because they were normal. They were normal, and they were like taking their shot, making a video, and something about their personality got them picked. I feel like unless they have their heads up their asses, which some people do get that like, I'm famous now kind of thing, they are just regular. Like, they go back and they're like, oh, cool, now I get a free buy into this poker tournament I used to have to pay for. That's cool. Like, I think both Rob and Tyson are very, very down to earth. And Tyson was just funny. I got to commentate with him at Run It Up Reno, and he's just so funny. He makes everything fun. Like sometimes commentating poker, it's pretty dry. He's just making up terms for different things that are happening, and he was like actively rooting against N4 people for no reason, and like just I don't know. I think that them being part of the poker community is just so awesome. And like this, when they say how do you get new people to play poker, efforts from Run Good, Poker Go, Run It Up, those companies to just get these fun people that are just, you know, maybe they have an interest in poker, but they haven't really been a poker player yet. Getting them in, that's an entire huge market of people that maybe didn't know poker before, but they love Boston Rob, they love Tyson, and now they're going to watch whatever show they're on.
It's incredibly important. I think it's great for the growth of the game because you bring in Boston Rob's fans, you bring in Tyson's fans who are just looking for anything that these guys are doing. They don't care if it's pickleball or a game show or a poker tournament. They just want to watch what these guys are doing. And if they can watch these guys have fun at the poker table, then they might be interested in poker. You know, we trash Randall Emmett plenty, and rightfully so, for some of his acts at the poker table. But he brings in a whole new fan base from that Vanderpump Rules crowd. And we see Tom Schwartz from Vanderpump Rules now playing a lot of poker. And he has 300,000 followers on Twitter. Bruce Buffer from the UFC, same thing. I could go on and on. I think this is really important for overall growth of the game. And I think to your point, Jamie, I think Poker Central deserves a lot of credit. And I think Run It Up deserves a lot of credit because they've been doing this for a while, right? Jason has been bringing Survivor contestants to Run It Up Reno. Have you guys both been to Run It Up Reno? I had a trip planned this year for April, but obviously canceled. And then this fall is canceled. But I hear nothing but rave reviews.
You have to go. It's made for you. I'm telling you, it's like, it is the nice guy tour where I feel myself being nicer at Run It Up Reno, where I'm just like, you can't really needle people. Like you got to make sure they know you're kidding and all this stuff. Like it is the nicest. I did stand-up comedy there. I have never done it and will never do it again. And there I had the guts to do it because I just knew people would be nice to me. I'm like, if I do this and I fall flat on my face, they're going to laugh because they're nice. And same thing with karaoke. Like every single person participated in this night, even if they're really shy, like wallflower types, because it just is like that whole environment, just having Jason at the head of it. Like he's not going to let it be a bad environment for new players, for new people, and for everyone to take their chances.
I think that they made a mistake letting Spraggy in because he told me that he was a judge on karaoke, and he was the self-proclaimed Simon Cowell.
I love that. Yes. The greatest reality show judge of all time, Simon Cowell.
They let one misfit in, but besides him, everyone's really great.
Yeah, they just knew no one listened Spraggy. They're like, whatever, let him be the judge. We'll just talk over him.
He means well.
We interrupt this podcast for an important message from our sponsors at Run It Once. Introducing Double Trouble Week at Run It Once Poker. We're doubling down on our popular Legends Rewards program. Normally, the program allows players to earn up to 75% total rake back each week. But from now until July 19th, players can cash in on even more value, as every Legends prize is worth twice its standard amount. And that's not all. We're also doubling down on our other popular in-game rewards program, Splash the Pot. From now until July 19th, we're splashing 60% rakeback onto our tables during 4 double Splash the Pot windows, each 2 hours long, for a total of 8 hours every single day. For full details, head to once.run/trouble. And, as always, if you're looking to improve your poker game, be sure to check out Run It Once Training, where membership gives you access to the largest library of high-quality poker training content on the web, with over 5,000 videos from a stable of some of the biggest names in the industry, including Run It Once founder Phil Galfond. Sign up now through once.run/learn, and you'll get free access to 3 of their elite level videos. And now, let's get back to the pod.
Do you think there's any potential to have like a mainstream poker show on regular mainstream TV?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know. It's tough right now. You know, as we know, especially as Jamie knows, the cream of the crop is the World Series of Poker main event, right? And we get that ESPN coverage, and we get it for a week and a half, whether it be on ESPN or ESPN2 or Poker Go. And that's where the most eyes flock to a poker show naturally, right? Because it is on ESPN, because we are on that huge platform. It's hard to see a poker tournament taking place other than that could really, really thrive on network TV, for example, on a CBS, ABC, Fox, etc. I do think we have some outs to having a show that incorporates elements of poker within it that could perhaps succeed, maybe not on a network, but maybe on a Netflix or a Hulu, etc. And whether that being a game show that has poker elements in it. I mean, Card Sharks is running right now on TV, so why couldn't we shift that a little bit more towards the poker
game
side?
Sucked. That was like one of the worst. I was a Game Show Network fiend. Like there were days I faked being sick so I could watch Game Show Network.
I love that.
And that show was like one of the worst. Like Big Blind is infinitely more entertaining than that show. I think it might have a slight barrier to entry because people would have to kind of understand how poker betting works.
Sure.
But also it's the kind of thing you explain it in the beginning of each show, and like kind of how High Stakes Poker used to explain it, and Celebrity Poker Showdown used to have literally an explanation. Here's how poker works.
Yeah.
Whatever. So I think there is a chance for that. I think people have tired a little bit of the dry poker streams, and like the super fans have found their outlets for that. Like they'll go and get a Poker Go subscription, or they'll go on YouTube and watch old High Stakes Poker or something like that. So we have that market covered already, right? I think that there has to be something that's like interesting to a complete poker noob that will get them hooked, and then maybe they'll be like, oh, poker seems fun, I'll check that out too. But there has to be some like other like human interest story or like other element, I think. Because
we do have, for the even casual poker fan on NBC Sports, for example, we run US Poker Open and Poker Masters, and the Super High Roller Bowl has played before. I think repeats on both NBC Sports, and it's been on CBS Sports Network in the past. And that is great. And that's effectively a highlight show. So it takes all the nitty gritty out of those super long poker streams. And so we have that as well. We could have a cash game like Friday Night Poker, which we had on Facebook a couple years ago, which both of you were on.
Yeah,
I think fun. That translates to a different kind of audience, because that's just more like, hey, we're watching this group of people play poker. They're entertaining. The game looks entertaining. This is not super serious. This is not super robotic. There doesn't have to always be, $3 million up top in a poker tournament to make it appealing television. And then you could also go the route of some kind of documentary series. I mean, imagine if you had one of these top production crews follow a tournament player around in the summer, a very emotional one perhaps, and seeing just kind of the ups and downs of the journey that poker player goes through. So I do still think we have a lot of options as far as poker programming is concerned moving forward.
They did an excellent job. For anyone listening who hasn't watched Stories from the Felt on Poker Go, I think by far the Big Blind is also good, but my top spot has to be Stories from the Felt. I learned so much stuff about like Vegas gambling history, a bunch of the players that you hear a little bit about, but you maybe don't know their entire backstory. It's just an excellent little docuseries, and they're short for people who maybe have like a Twitter-sized attention span like me. But yeah, definitely check that out. That's some of the like highest production value of like anything that Poker Go has put out, in my opinion.
They put some real money into some of these shows. I think it's been impressive what they put out there, and I think that the relaunch of High Stakes Poker, whenever they can get that done, is also going to be super impressive, and it's going to look really sharp, and I think it'll draw a lot of interest from poker fans out there.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me. I ask a lot because, when you talk to people, like I call them like, non-poker people about poker, they always have so much curiosity and they love it so much and they want to hear more. And so you always think, and they always say, oh, it'd be so great. You should make a show about this. And in my mind, I would love to make like even like a scripted like drama, just about poker players and stuff. But there's this gap of knowledge, you know what I mean? And I don't know how to bridge that. And I don't, and we've seen it done, of course, Rounders and Molly's Game, and there's been big successes, but it's really interesting because I think it's the one industry that's so, and people are so curious about, but at the same time, it just, we can't quite get it to that level where it's just understood like sports or whatever it may be.
Right. It's like the initial reaction to poker is like, oh, cool, I play blackjack too. And you're like, well, no, it's...
Or what's that like? Or do you like, or like what? So you like play, it's real money, or how much do you lose? Like all these things, And there's so many great stories. Like, there's so many great stories about people just playing and they owe half the real money and they've got $1 million in front of them and they owe everybody money and this crazy stuff that happens. And, but I don't know. I would love to see that make it to like, I don't know.
I do think there's an opportunity there to show what poker, quote unquote, brings to the table. Yeah. And we've seen some good attempts at, scripted dramas like you mentioned, like Rounders and Molly's Game. We've seen some really bad attempts also that I think are just so insanely over the top. And, it's royal flush over quads or, it's just the most ridiculous storylines that you could possibly think of. But I do think there's an avenue there with the storylines that poker is able to naturally create around both its low stakes players and high stakes players that could potentially translate really well to an audience.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think a lot of it right now, I would watch one right now. Like I live in Vegas, but I very much miss Vegas. Like there is no opportunity to do the little some of the stuff I do that wasn't even healthy, which would be like go play a late night session, have drinks with your friends, play a late night session, get stuck $1,000, $2,000, and then play till noon the next day till you get unstuck, get a drink in the morning to like ease the hangover, and then just be like, make your way home. Your eyes hurt from the sun shining them. I even miss those nights. Like I miss the whole thing about like the poker life. And I feel like I'm such a serious actual poker player now where I like review my hands and I play online and I don't get drunk and I don't like make bad decisions or play too big or any of this stuff. I miss that. I would watch a show about that right now. If we followed around, like say last year, me and you teamed up and made a documentary about like one of the most degenerate players and what they do day to day. I'm dying for that content right now. I would love to sit at home and watch these guys live their life that way and just have the nostalgia of like starting out in poker and messing up everything, screwing up your bankroll, doing dumb things, playing in games with players way better than you with way more money, all that. Like, I think there is something there. I think we have to build it around the whole entire, like not just the poker game, not just the money, but basically like show me what your life is like. Like I would love, like, especially Depaulo just now, like take me on that drive, like put me on FaceTime, let me know what you're doing as you're driving to this parking lot, setting up. I can only imagine he was peeing in cups. What was he doing? I want to know from start to finish how he got this bracelet. And I want to know what the drive home is like. Because we've all been on the drive home after losing a lot of money, right? We're just like staring straight out the windshield. But that could have been its own little documentary right there. And I'm dying for that content right now. And I think for the next year or so, as poker is a super weird world with maybe no live games, like that, there is a need for that kind of content.
Yeah, there is a certain allure there to the poker lifestyle or to the Vegas lifestyle. I just want, whatever that show may be, to show both the ups and the downs. And I think that's what makes poker so compelling is you could be the best player in the world, but you can't go out there and win every single day. I mean, unless you're Robert Kuhn. Yeah. Robert Kuhn, that busting balls guy who just seems to like win every World Series of Poker event. Maybe he can win every day, but there's such, I go back to what we said at the beginning, there's that roller coaster ride, which I think is what makes poker so compelling. It'd be too easy for a documentary to show the glitz and the glamour of Vegas and, oh, this guy's winning a bunch of money and then he's going to party. And yeah, I mean, that'd be cool. That'd be whatever. But like, let's show that ride, that he or she may be on. Let's show the really emotional, really down moments when you haven't, cashed a tournament in a month and you're just feeling down, or in cash, you're just, bricking and just running terribly, no matter how good you're playing. Let's show a little bit of those moments. And I think that would make the poker storylines in these shows more compelling overall.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And less harmful to someone who's thinking about quitting their job. It was hard when I first started out and had that idea. At some point, I was like, every day that I go to work, I think about quitting that day, until finally I just did it. But that was in my head, that I saw a lot of good things about poker, and I saw it as a way out from like this very boring life that I was heading toward. But it would have been helpful actually to get both sides of it. So it's not just we're selling this dream that's not real. But I still would have chosen it. Like, I've been on some serious downs over the course of 10 years, but I still would have chosen this lifestyle over being a partner at a law firm or whatever. But
Did
yeah,
you
I
feel
agree with
some
you.
immediate pressure, like right after you quit your job, like in your first, couple weeks, your first month of sessions, where you're like, oh my God, I quit my job just to do this. I better win, this hand, for example.
Well, yeah, and mostly because Black Friday happened after I had already put in my 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah, right.
So most of my money was online. I was like, oh, this is cool. But I had played enough of like 5-10 live to know what my win rate was. And then I was like, okay, I can't really be a gambler right now. I have to just like go be a cash grinder. And I did that for a year, built money up just in case I never got the full tilt money back, and then moved to Mexico. It was a crazy time. But yeah, like the pressure when you decide, like when you declare, I am a professional poker player, like from that moment on, you can't be an idiot anymore. Like when I was still a lawyer, I could be an idiot. I'm like, oh, I feel like playing 5-10. Oh, they put a quarter straddle on it. Cool. Whatever. I'm going to get paid this week. And you don't have to really think about being responsible. So that was like the one switch that flipped when I just like said to myself, I'm doing this, is that I'm like, okay, now I have to make sure I'm actually responsible and I'm doing the right thing every day. I don't know. Are you thinking about it someday?
Me? No, absolutely not. I just love the poker broadcasting so much that I just, as much as I do love playing poker tournaments, it just doesn't make sense for me personally. I love having the tournaments on the side. I love playing. It's so much fun. I love the social interaction, or some of the social interaction that you get from playing poker. I love to express that kind of competitive side, that competitive nature, going for the win. But overall, I just am fortunate enough to be in a position where I just love my job too much and broadcasting about poker to ever go the professional poker player route. Marley, do you feel a lot of pressure like in your, poker endeavors? I just feel like there's this if you lose a session or if you lose a tournament, there's just like, it's hard to ever be completely satisfied, I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Well, it goes back to kind of what I was saying before. I played full time for 2.5 years. And then especially in the beginning, when you just, like Jamie said, because it's your whole identity, because it's what you're doing and your eggs are all in one basket and this is what you are, it's make or break. If you don't win, you've failed or whatever. Yeah. So much pressure. But the last year and a half, I have multiple sources of income and do multiple things. And, being just a grinder is still a huge part of what I do, but I don't feel quite as much pressure. I think because, like you said, like Jamie said, there's so many, I think hedging your identity or whatever, what you do, and even income wise, like is good for the soul, because you don't live and die on every failure, every setback. Because I'm also vlogging, or if I'm getting crushed, I'll go make some vlogs, or I'll just stream, or I'll whatever, like do something else. But
your point about emotional hedging is really good, because it's not just money. Like I feel the same way, because me and you have had talks where we're like, what would we want to do? Like, do we want to do a vlog together? We've had like discussions where we're like, how can we optimize like our time together, and what would people want to see? And we think about that, and like the hour we're talking about that, I'm not thinking about a downswing or an upswing or anything like that. I'm like, oh, we're trying to think about a creative thing that like turns on a different part of your brain, makes you happy or whatever. And in the same way, like I'm taking poker so much more seriously, and it's making me really happy to do that. And I feel like when I get a chance to commentate again, it will bleed into that, like where I'm just like, oh, I feel like confident. I feel happy to be in the booth. I don't feel like a fraud because I put in work, and that kind of feeling is good. But overall, it's like the little criticisms that sometimes will get into your brain if you do put all your eggs in one basket, it's not as effective if you know you're working on yourself in like every single way, and you're not like, oh, my identity is Marley the vlogger, and if my vlog is not the best vlog, I'm a loser. You're like, no, this is a thing I do for fun, and like sometimes they hit and sometimes they miss. And same thing with poker. If you're losing at poker, maybe you make a really fun vlog that week and you get a bunch of feedback on that, and it's like a nice distraction.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I do feel, and Jamie, I feel like you feel the same way, but now that I'm not just a full-time grinder and I'm not just all the time, I do feel like sometimes like, oh man, like I need to apply myself more. I really need to study more. Like, you know, I'm not really like trying here, you know? And so there are moments of that, but overall I'm just way happier when I'm just doing different things, for sure.
I think that's even important for somebody whose only source of income is poker. Like, I'm sure if you guys just look back to the days where you're just grinding, you wish you had, you know, just had something else going on, even if it just took up an hour or two of your day. So your brain is not overloaded with all poker all the time. I think even the most diehard poker fans, the most diehard poker players need a break from the action at times. And I think if that break can be consistent, then it's just going to be better for you overall.
Yeah, is that why you do commentary and OnlyFans, Jeff?
There it is from Jamie Kerstetter, ladies and gentlemen. I have no comment on that at this time.
Wow, he's not going to even plug his OnlyFans. Okay,
no
well,
comment.
we'll plug it for you. You guys can look in the comments for his channel.
Ha, ha, ha. That's why she's the best in the business, ladies and gentlemen.
That's
man. I feel like you're doing so much stuff that this has been like the fastest feeling pod of all time. I had like more stuff to ask you. Most of the time, some people are just like, we're like, hey, how do you feel about this? They're like, I feel good.
Right.
And we're like, oh shit, I need way more questions.
You know, but unfortunately, that's what you run into with poker players sometimes. It's like, what does winning this WSOP bracelet mean to you? A lot.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you know, we could use a little bit more here, but I do think poker players have gotten better, at least in the couple years that I've been
Unless you watch Triton. Marley is very hard on herself for Triton. Well, I was like, this is not your fault, dude. I was watching, so this is like right when we were starting our pod. And I was like, okay, there's one or two little things where I'm like, you nod a lot, Marley, like little nervous things, but you would ask a perfectly good question and the guy would be like, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm it's like Kristen said too. It's like, it's just such a hard role because these are huge tournaments and like no one wants to spend their 5-minute break in 100K talking to me about fucking how does it feel to be here? Like, and they're so fucking nice. Almost everyone says yes and they just are so sweet and they go and they're nice for even doing it. But it's such a tense environment. Like that's some of the biggest tournaments going, and to have to grab someone and just kind of shoot the shit with them when God knows what's going through their brain is insane. Yeah,
the only person with a worse job than that, because I 100% agree with you, you're fighting an uphill battle when they have limited time and they want to go to the bathroom or whatever else. The only one with a harder job, Kara Scott, when she has to get someone who just busted the final table of the WSOP main, she has to be like, hey, I'm so sorry, in her very Canadian, like motherly way. But then she has to be like, so how do you feel right now? And they look at her like they want to stab her in the throat. And she still has to get an interview from them. And I just think like she is so underrated in that moment for being able to get someone to actually give her an interview and not like run away to the parking lot. And I just think she is one of a kind. And I'm sad we're not doing WSOP this year, but I don't know if I would be able to do it. She's one of my good friends. And if I got like 9th and I'm walking out and she's like, hey, can I grab you for an interview? I'd be like, yeah, when I stop crying, maybe. Right.
Kara is a legend. I mean, she's somebody that I look up to. Probably we all look up to in this as far as poker broadcasting is concerned, because to y'all's points, I think the sideline reporter job looks a lot easier than it actually is. And sideline reporters in sports hear this kind of criticism all the time, like, oh, you just go up to the coach and, you know, you ask how he feels after the it's so much harder than that. It's so different, especially with these high rollers who their mindset, you know, is not built during a tournament to adjust and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm here in this beautiful location and this is nice and I'm doing this and that. They're strictly focused on poker. And it can be so difficult, no matter how good your questions may be, no matter how well prepared you may be, to get a good interview with some of these poker players and with some athletes and coaches. So I think that sideline reporting role is a super underrated role. You know, sideline reporting host, whatever.
Dude, Marley basically has to interview like the Belichick of poker player.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
She's just and
yes.
like she can do everything she can do and do the right thing. And I feel the same way with like Liv and Kara. If you get a Belichick, he's gonna be like, we played our best. And
Right.
walk, you know, like you're not getting anything.
When I worked as a sports reporter in San Antonio, most of that job was covering the San Antonio Spurs, and their head coach, Greg Popovich. Pop is like a Belichick, and he's just notorious for absolutely shutting down reporters. And my very first question I asked him, I was so nervous. I was holding the mic and like shaking. I was just absolutely terrified. And his answer to my question that I asked, I think I asked like, what made this player so efficient on the offensive end tonight? And he said, I don't know how to answer that. And then he just stormed off and walked away. And I think that was a little bit like, I know this guy's new, you know, I'm going to fuck with him a little bit.
He's hazing you?
But still, it's like, you know, and sometimes you would ask him questions and he would just shut you down. And it's like, to go back to what I was saying earlier, no matter how good your preparation is, you're just going to get shut down sometimes. It's just going to happen. Somebody's going to decline an interview request. They aren't going to be good on a couple questions. And, you know, that's fine. That's just an overall part of the game. But I think that experience overall with Pop, when he did give me a good answer, you know, I just think that helped me kind of learn how to formulate better questions when dealing with guys like him who don't particularly want to talk to the media.
100%. And like I feel like sometimes tournament poker may have prepared you for that job better, because with Pop especially, it's like feast or famine. He's going to walk off, or he's going to give you like a 3-minute diatribe on some social issue and just like go. I've heard some of his like super eloquent responses to things that like the prompt wasn't even that good. He's just like, I'm going to talk about Black Lives Matter now, or whatever the topic of the day is. And I feel like that's like winning a tournament. Like he actually answers your question and gives you like a spot that will be shown all over the place for like a month.
Right. Because then you can be like on Twitter, you know, you can throw out that I asked Pop about this issue, and then here's what his response was. Yeah, he was great. He's so often he was so good with the media, but obviously the highlight clips are just going to be him, unless it's a fantastic, like you said, Jamie, diatribe on a social issue, which are great, which do draw a lot of attention. The quick little Twitter highlight clips are him, of course, shutting down a reporter. So you do get both sides of it.
Man, it makes you tough. It makes you tough. I used to think I've done stand-up a bunch of times, and I used to think that was the toughest thing I've ever done. But interviewing, bust-out interviews are definitely tougher. But it makes you tougher. It makes you stronger. So,
yeah. One more question. We could probably do this for 2 hours, but I have just one more. And then Marley, if you got any burning questions too. Let's say poker was completely canceled. You can't play another hand of poker, can't commentate another hand of poker. What would your future look like? Would you go back to sports reporting, try to be a sports broadcaster, or what do you think you would do?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do think I would go back into sports broadcasting. I mean, that's always been my passion. My two passions have always been poker and sports broadcasting. So as corny as it sounds, you know, I wanted to merge those two passions together for my career, which I found. So without the poker, I would probably go right back into sports broadcasting. Perhaps I'd go to LA and try to audition for every single game show that they put on, and you know, hopefully that would go well. I'm not sure. That's a great question, but it would be something broadcasting related, whether that's as, you know, a host or an anchor, a reporter, perhaps doing some producing work as well. I think that's what I'm the most interested in.
What is the pinnacle game show? Is it still Price is Right? Because for me, as a kid, I was absolutely certain I was going to host Price is Right. I was shy. I was shy. I barely talked, surprisingly. But I thought I'd be Bob Barker. I'm like, well, that'll be one of my jobs.
You could get in the door, though. I mean, whenever Drew Carey bows out, you're like, hey, you know, I do broadcasting for ESPN. That might get you in the door for an audition. I mean, Price is Right is legendary. I would love to host like a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, which is still going on just in its daytime form. And then the absolute dream for me would be like a I guess like America's Got Talent or
Mhm.
American Idol, you know, that's like the pinnacle. I think that's not game show, obviously, that's more reality TV show, but I think that's that's a show that relies on its host so much.
Something funny that you just reminded me of, we have like 800 things in common. I'm not hitting on you, by the way, but this is like, this date's going really well, Jeff. No. The Bachelor, you unapologetically watch The Bachelor, tweet about The Bachelor. Whereas I go to Katie Lindsay's house, I watch The Bachelor and I'm like, Katie, don't tell anyone I was here.
Still looking for an invite to that party, by the way. I just like The Bachelor. I like the drama that the show provides. You know, I'm comfortable enough with my masculinity, I guess, to put out there that like, yeah, I enjoy The Bachelor. You know, I create odds for the final like 4 to 6 contestants on the show. I just love it. Chris Harrison, the host, he does a great job. It's just like, it's stupid, sure, but it's fun to watch. And again, like I mentioned earlier, it's just a great escape from this poker world that we can sometimes feel trapped in. So
makes me feel normal too. I was thinking, I'm like, I'm practically married. I've been with Chris for like 6 years. But I would think back to my dating life, and even the like embarrassing moments of it, you'll feel great about your dating life if you watch The Bachelor. I think that might be the best part, where I'm like, well, never puked on a guy on a date. That's good.
It is nothing compared to that show, that's for sure.
Yeah. So I just wanted to know, so what are your plans coming up for WSOP, and what are you planning on firing? So
I plan to play just about every No-Limit event. I mean, I'm even more clueless at like PLO and PLO8 than I am at No-Limit Texas Hold'em. So I put up packages on State Kings. I sell off a decent amount of my action. I play just about every day, and then every night we stream, and the stream is either featured table coverage or, you know, if I get really lucky, the stream is going to be me playing. So I'm kind of locked down. I'm in it for the World Series of Poker US version. As far as the GG version is concerned, I'm still thinking about doing the same kind of feature table coverage that I've done for WSOP.com events.
Mm-hmm.
I would just do the same thing for GG. Obviously, the time would be different. If this month, I should say, went really, really, really well for me, then I would try to go travel and just play 1 or 2 GG events, just because that sounds awesome. And the GG software looks amazing. All due respect to WSOP.com software, but the GG software looks like a lot of fun. And I think it'd be cool to play an international WSOP event. Marle, are you going to fire next month in some WSOP?
Yeah, I'm planning on it. I'll be streaming, depending on my tilt level or whatever, or, you know, it's just that added
Don't tilt before the series starts for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just feel like sometimes, like, I just want to get in a zone and focus in.
Sure.
But I'm planning on definitely playing a bunch and streaming as much as I can. But yeah, it should be fun. It should be fun. And I really want to get a bracelet.
Yes. There's something, again, it may sound corny, but there's like something romantic or mystical about that World Series of Poker bracelet. And even though, yeah, sure, it's online and now they have a ton of them and the buy-ins are lower, like, that's cool with me. You know, I'll still take a World Series of Poker bracelet. As Tuckman says all the time on his broadcast, back in the 70s, people won bracelets for basically winning a sit and go.
Yeah.
So if we beat 1,000 players online and it's a WSOP bracelet event, we deserve the bracelet.
Right. Yeah. And the fields are huge. I really thought people were making a lot out of nothing when they were complaining about 85 bracelets or whatever, because there are 2 states accessible to a lot of people. Like, I don't advocate flying right now. I think it's pretty bad in the US with COVID, but you can drive pretty much anywhere. Me and Chris have driven across the country 1,000,000 times. So it is possible to get to one of these places, rent a cabin, rent a Whole Foods parking space, and win a bracelet. So I think that, you know, it sucks that it's not the whole entire world. I think they're doing their best, though. Having 85 bracelets online available to 2 drivable states on each coast, pretty much, and then having the rest of the world have GG, I feel like that's a pretty good compromise.
I think it's the best they could have done in this spot, right? And there are still plans for a live World Series of Poker in November. That's very, very, very hard to see happening. But for this to serve as a replacement, I think it's fine, and it's, you know, effectively the best they could have done with it all.
Yeah.
True.
Sweet.
Cool. Yeah, is there anything else that you want to ask Marley or anything else you want to talk about, Jeff, and promote?
Oh, promote. I do like to promote. So I will say one more time. There we go. Wednesday, July 22nd, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific time. Boston Rob versus Tyson, available on Twitch. I think the Twitch channel is Rob vs. Tyson. Pretty sure on that. You'll be able to Google it. You'll be able to find it. Looking forward to that. And then streaming every night on my own channel, twitch.tv/Jeff Platt, 1 a.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Pacific time. We also have the championship run on Poker Go, where we take you through some memorable runs from the World Series of Poker main event, from the Poker Masters, from the US Poker Open, from the Super High Roller Bowl. And I think that's it. Yeah.
That's the one that Remco does? Is that?
No, it's not Remco's,
no, because
Jamie.
there was
That's
another
my
one,
show. Remco does his Run It Back with Remco.
Oh, Run It Back. Okay, because I just watched Remco do the one with Blumstein, and it was so awesome. Like being on the rail for that and watching my friend win the main event. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't watched the main event from 3 years ago. That was so fun to watch it back. And also, I gotta say, Remco stepping it up. Remco most improved interviewer of all time. I'm putting
Remco, I think, does a fantastic job in his interviews. He knows so much about the game. He's passionate about poker. He knows who he's talking to. He feels that person out pretty well. I think he gets them super comfortable, which is a key aspect of the interviewing, as we all know. He does a tremendous job. And so do, I must say, you two. I enjoy this podcast. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be on with you all.
Thanks for coming on with us. That was a fun one. Sorry, Marley, if I had like 800 questions. Usually when it's like Marley's friend, I'm like, you got this, Marley. And this time, like, I have like 72 questions, Marley.
No, it's good. Yeah, it was really easy and fun to talk to you. And thanks for coming on.
That was great. I feel the same way. Thank you all.
All right, guys, we'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, be good, stay safe, peace out. Run good, more importantly.